don't assume me cussing a lot's going to be an issue, is it?
Just keep it G-rated, because I don't know who's going to be watching. So
Yeah, I'll try to keep that in mind.
but yeah, so we're live now. So we'll just wait for people to arrive. But keep the conversation going. It was great. Yeah, just so people know we're here when they tune in.
So, what's your guys' experience with prepping and so on and so forth?
Mine is really just kind of uh a combination of necessity, but also just the aesthetic of just minimalism and being able to be self sufficient in general. I just the first thing I did, I just started stockpiling canned food and things like that. And a lot of that also was just like to save money, really. Like if you get a bunch of like bulk food or whatever that you can keep, in storage, that $40 or whatever you might have saved on this really big amount, you could like that's gas money. I mean, I think about it like that.
Hmm. For me, I'm out of a group of friends of mine. We're all preppers, and we're starting our own group locally. Once we get enough money to, what do you call it there? I don't know what you call it to go through the process. We're starting the Ontario Pioneering School, or that's the goal at least. But for now, there's just the six of us that are all preppers, and we're all good at our own little thing. Like one of my friends is good with guns. I'm good with finding military surplus, so on and so forth. But I'll post it in general here, our logo, just for shits and giggles. But yeah, we're trying to start a pioneering school, or basically a group of other pioneers in our local area sharing knowledge from everything from learning how to start a fire with flint and tinder and you name it, everything from basic skills to apocalyptic communications.
So how long you been in that group for?
Or our group's been technically around for 8 years, but not officially, or in the sense of it's been more of a Facebook group. But once I get a little bit more money, we're going to try to patent, or what's the word? I guess it's patent the
Trademark.
logo. Yeah, trademark our logo, and then we're going to start. Now that we got our logo out this year, our plan is to make a pamphlet and start putting out flyers and try to get more members. Like what we've been doing essentially as a group, just the 8 of us, is pretty much go out and go camping all year round and just, go into the bush and practice our survival skills. Bring in minimal food, cook over fire, and you name it. Practice our basic skills. We go up maybe about 5 times a year to the range and practice our.
So do you all live and know each other locally, or is it just purely
Yeah,
online?
we all live in the same city. We have technically there's more of us, but there's why I only say 8 is there's 8 of us in the city here, and then there's, I guess you could say, honorary members, or people if they ever come to our city that they're welcome to join in on our group.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I mean groups are important, like obviously.
And group also works with contingencies and that, like each person in the group, I guess you could say, brings their own skills. Like one of us is a chemist. I'm, well, a mechanic by trade, but I'm really good at buying and selling surplus because my other hobby is collecting military stuff. So for the group, I pretty much get us cheapest, best prices on MREs and different surplus gear, like
That's something I'd like to get some of. I don't have any MREs.
but gas masks, bulletproof vests, shit like that. I'm not sure if I'm. Well, then again, every prepper is prepping for a different thing, but I've got at least 2 flak vests, even though that's a little too much. And
doesn't gun laws over there make it more difficult as far as surplus, or am I wrong on that?
for us, it's pretty much we can't own in Canada. You're not allowed to own automatic weapons unless you have a grandfathered license. Pretty much the average Joe can only have like rifles and shotguns. Unless you go for a restricted license, then you can have handguns. But the good thing about Canada is if a gun's made before 1896, it's considered an antique as long as it's using a round that's no longer in production anymore, and you can legally own it free without a license. So,
That's
like,
pretty
I
cool.
have a 1861 Snyder Enfield, which is a great big old, I guess you could say, primitive cartridge rifle, single shot, trap door, and I can own it without any license and get ammo without any license, which is pretty nice. But for anything else that's rifles or shotguns that are modern, you just go for the basic license. And as I said, pistols and revolvers, if they're modern, the restricted license, they're a little hard on it in the sense of if you want to go to the range, you have to phone the police and say, hello, yeah, I'm going to the range. Yeah, my name is so and so, PAL number, whatever. Then you can go to the range and transport it there and back. But
That's not 100% true, but
I'm not the best, but I'm decent with laws. As I said, my friend's more of the gun
Does
one.
it vary by province?
I think it
Like,
does. All I know is for where I live in Ontario, and even then, I'm a bit rusty.
yeah, like here, like pretty much every state has its own laws on like Kentucky gun laws are pretty lax. It wouldn't really take me a whole lot to get um the tax stamp or whatever to own a full auto. Like they just pretty much you do a background check, you give them some money, and you get your thing or whatever in the mail. And then the only issue though is that like full auto rifle. I mean, like if you want a full auto AK, you can get one, but like if you look online, they cost like $30,000 or something.
Hmm.
And
Right.
at
Even
that point, like if you're in an actual scenario, you may as well just modify your semi-auto. Just like it's not even that difficult.
even here for semi-auto, we're pretty limited. I'm not too sure on the full extent of it. All I know is I have a SKS and it's been pinned to 5 rounds, which is pretty sad. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
if
I was
all
gonna say. I
semi-autos
thought,
are pinned to 5, but I know at least my SKS is. And then bolt
yeah,
action, I think it's not sure if it's as much as you want. All I know is that I have a Lee Enfield and it can hold 10 rounds of ammunition, bolt action, and it's all right with the law.
I'd like to own an Enfield just because of the fact that they can hold 10 rounds.
Hmm.
Right,
Like
guys,
versus all.
we've got our first question.
Oh, okay.
So Prepper Vet's asking what each of us are preparing for. So why don't we start with Iron School?
Well, I'm prepping for, I guess you could say, multiple, but based on my locale in the world, I'm preparing for apocalypse or political unrest, I guess you could say, or the economy to crash, not including I guess you could say, everybody's preparing for the nuclear holocaust, but that's a less likely one.
All right, Innatruck.
For me,
I wouldn't say I'm prepping necessarily for like one event or anything in general, but basically more or less anything that would cause a blackout or a grid down scenario. That's more or less where my main concern area of concern is. So.
All right, and Fuscular.
for me, it's just pretty much, yeah, like what if the power goes out type of thing, or mostly for me though, it's more on a personal level of just being able to avoid conflicts in general, especially just I don't know. I've gotten into a lot of situations with people who are like, um, just put it. There's a reason that I want to bulletproof my truck. You know what I mean, type of thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that, and just being able to survive on my own if stuff goes to hell.
And I forgot two things there, by the way, just quickly, but also biological. But my main, I guess you could say, goal with all my prepping is to be able to prepare to leave my city within, I'll say, it's not the best time, but within about 4 hours, or essentially load up my vehicle, round up any of my other prepper friends who are in Ottawa if they're not somewhere else, and then prepare to leave the city. Because if something happens in my city, that's where all the shit's gonna go down first. So
Do you
best to
think
get to the
4 hours
countryside.
4 hours is like your limit on like whatever time it takes you to get away?
It's not the best time. I know there's better times. It's just I'm still working on, I guess you could say, getting equipment and making everything more compact and easier to load in my vehicle. Because I mean, I have a bag that I carry around, my bug out bag, every day, but then I have my vehicle set up so if I'm at home and oh no, something's happening, I can put in a whole bunch of bins into my vehicle and load it up with food and extra supplies. I guess you could say there's my initial everyday bag, and then the small kit that I carry on my person when I'm away from my vehicle, and then the vehicle. I guess you could say 3 levels of bug out.
So have
Yeah.
you actually done a trial run and it's taken you 4 hours, or?
No, I'm just making a guess, but I'm only saying 4 hours because I'm not the most organized. I need to work on my organization of my equipment.
Yeah, same. I've kind of got 3 stages to it too. It's like I've got my most important stuff, which I carry on me. Like I'm always got on cargo pants, and then I have a pocket vest, um, that I keep all of that, and then like sort of necessities, like for that current time, like I keep in the truck, and then I've got a storage unit with like totes full of like the canned food and all that type of like long term type stuff that if I need to, I can get over there, load it into the truck, and just basically just be out of there pretty quickly, really, because like Louisville is right next to it's like where I am is right next to the interstate, and so I mean I could be out of the state very quickly if I had to be for whatever reason.
Mm.
How much ammo would you take with you, Gorge?
Once
Or
I got some, as much as possible.
or do,
um
do you know anybody who gives like a rough estimate on ammo, how much to carry?
do I know what?
How much do people would saying that they would normally carry in the USA?
I don't really know a whole lot about that. Like I don't know anybody around here locally that's into this type of thing. I don't have any weapons currently. Those are probably the most important thing I need to, not most important thing, but it's up there on the list. And but yeah, like once I got ammo, I would like have at least a few canisters of whatever you know caliber it is, ammunition, and like the back seat of this truck has this sort of flap that you can pull out. So like you could have stuff in the floorboard in the back and then pull this out and it's almost like a shelf. I would just put it up there and like handgun under the seat, you know, shotgun and rifle kind of in the back too, or whatever that I needed to do is. But that's something like that. I'd have to figure out once I've actually got guns and ammo.
For me at least, well, this is for the vehicle loadout for ammunition. I have 1 crate of what do you call it there? Chinese ammo in the wooden crate, which I think is about 1,400 some rounds,
Yeah.
corrosive. But that's for oh shit, something's happening, loaded in the vehicle, long term. But I am working on getting what's the word I'm looking for? An everyday carry, I guess you can call it. With it's sort of 50-50 with Canadian laws, but
Yeah.
there's ways to work around it. But anyways, it's totally legal is with an antique, as long as it's in transit. That's what I've been doing. Is I have like a 5-shot revolver antique, and that's what I carry for my vehicle. I guess you could say pistol, or not pistol, revolver.
No.
The only thing
here.
is, oh, sorry. I'll let you go
No,
first.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna
All right.
say, I have to keep it unloaded, and then I have to keep it in a bag for transit. But then I keep it in my vehicle in case shit goes down. But for my bigger, sorry.
No, you go ahead and finish.
Oh,
I'm kind of lagging a bit. So.
But yeah, for my larger get out of town loadout, I'd probably be bringing 4 weapons with me: SKS, my Snyder, and then my Kune, which is a revolver, and maybe my Lee Enfield, maybe.
Here in Kentucky, pretty much what the laws are is once you're 18, you can pretty much buy any gun except handguns, which you have to be 21 to buy, and you don't need to be registered for that. You just have to have a driver's license, basically. The only thing you need to get registered for is either the ability to own full autos or a concealed carry permit. For if you're concealed carry. But what's cool about Kentucky is the glove box does not count as concealed. So you can have a handgun or whatever in your glove box and it's legal. The only stipulation is that there can't be a round in the chamber, from what I understand. But yeah, we're pretty lax here, and so yeah, like I'd like to get another SKS. I need to get a decent 12 gauge and some like triple odd buckshot for that, and some kind of handgun. I was at a pawn shop a year or so back looking at a Springfield XD45, I think. Like that, I like the weight of it. Like it felt like solid in my hand, like it fit my hand right. But I've never really been much into handguns. I've always preferred like semi-auto rifles or bolt action. I mean, like if push come to shove, I would, I'll probably get an AR or an AK or something. If I have to, I'll, modify it to full auto, if it's just absolutely, shit goes to hell or whatever. But, yeah, I'm more into like the long rifles or battle rifles, that type of something that shoots a large caliber like 7.62.
For me, I'm just into old military rifles, period. But I got to get a more, I guess you could say, more modern caliber bolt action rifle. My Lee Enfield's good luck in an apocalypse finding 303. It's hard enough to find it right now. But the SKS ammo is around for everywhere.
Yeah, 7.62 is all over the place.
And plus, people in your group would need the same ammo. Are you going to all get matching ammo? Matching guns, etc.?
Yeah, do y'all ammo pull at all?
Sort of. Like, there's a whole bunch of our group still, I guess you could say. Like, I'm second oldest in our group. The rest are younger. They're still working on getting guns, I guess you could say. There's only I know this is really bad, but there's only the 3 of us that have guns out of the 8. But the rest are working on
0.
But the ones of us who
better enough.
Yeah, the ones of us who do have guns have enough to hand out, though. Like, my friend has 3 SKSs, a little too much for my taste, but like
pretty much all I have right now is I have a tire iron, a sledgehammer, a crowbar, and a box cutter, and that's like as far as weapons. That's really all I've got. Like I need some kind of like actual shootable weapon. But yeah, just everything I've got is pretty much close range at the moment, which is nice though because those things aren't weapons; they're tools. So like. Like if I walk into a police station with a box cutter or whatever, and they might say, or like the courthouse, like if you go through the metal detector and be like, hey, you got a box cutter, so it's like, oh my bad, I forgot it. You know what I mean? It's like the type of thing you could really take most places, and if you had it somewhere, you really wouldn't get in a whole lot of trouble for it. Like that's one thing I look for with something like that is it's stuff that's not technically a weapon but can be used as one.
For knives, I like every day I carry at least 2 pocket knives, but my bug out knife, or what I like to call my fighting knife, is too big to, I guess you could say, legally carry around. I use the current issue Bayonet 2000, the current issue combat knife for the Canadian Forces.
Yeah, that's
It's
one thing I
also
don't have is a decent knife or hatchet or anything yet.
It's big and sharp, and it's made out of thick metal, so you could hit the back end of it to use it to cut wood. And then it also has built into the sheath a wire cutter, so you can cut barbed wire, or in this case, not really that, but maybe copper wire or whatever for crafting stuff in Apocalypse. But
You
can't carry it around.
you ever think of anything as far as like portable power? Because like one thing that I need to get is I've been thinking about getting one of those. They're kind of like they're those portable batteries that are like a car battery charger / air compressor type thing. Because I've had several times now had an issue of either like my car battery runs out or like I get a flat tire and like need to pump it up or whatever. And so I've been thinking about getting something like that. Another thing I've thought about is getting like just marine batteries and hooking them up to use as like a power source. Like I guess like a power bank or whatever. If I ever was like in a situation where I just didn't have anywhere else to get power, that type of thing. Because from what I understand, marine batteries aren't or can be used in other like car batteries are like they're meant more just to get the engine started, but a marine battery can power things for a longer period.
My brother is working on a. Oh, sorry, you had cut out there. I'll let you finish what you were saying there. Sorry for interrupting.
I was finished.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
my brother's working on a power system. It's just he's, I guess you could say, the more electronic or technical. He's in our group, the computer person, or the, not to call him a nerd, but the one who's really good with computers and electronics. So he's working on 2 things: a little power bank that works with recharging with a solar panel. And he's also working on, it's something we want to try to do in our city within our group once we get more people, but what would you call it? I forget the term for it, but it's sort of an internet, but it's not connected to the internet really.
Just like a sneaker net.
Yeah, I guess you could.
Well, like a mesh network.
Yeah, that's it. Mesh network.
Oh, okay.
They have one in New York, which is large scale, but we want to try to start it up in this city. But it's getting enough people who are willing to buy nodes, and then we found a way to connect it into the internet to give everyone a cheap, I guess you could say, easy form of internet. But anyway, he knows more about it than I do, but he's working on that, communications and electricity. Although I have a little project I want to try, but it's a little too archaic. Is the way I always think solar panels will eventually, what's the word I'm looking for, wear out. I know everything else wears out, but solar panels, I guess you could say, have a short lifespan. That's their downfall.
What,
so I'm thinking of making.
What is their lifespan?
You think like what?
Oh, I was just gonna.
What is the solar panel's lifespan? Out of interest, does anyone know?
No,
I'm not sure, but I know it's around 5 years, maybe more. I'm not sure.
Prepavet says 25 years. Prepavet says 25 years, apparently.
Or something like that. Wow. But when it comes to my pioneering group, my other hobby, other than military stuff, is I'm a historian. So part of my, I guess you could say, prepping fun that I like to do is I've been building, what would you call it? I call it my frontiersman bug out kit, or a bug out kit that's dated, everything in it's from 1850s or from that time period style. essentially in my group, I go into the history of bugging out and that, like Vikings, first Canadian, pioneers to Canada that come here and build soddies, if you've heard of them, which is a house made out of sod. I guess you could say early forms of prepping, or our ancestors who had to live in the rough.
Yeah, I like to read about stuff like that. Try to think about, like how would you survive if you didn't have all the technology type stuff,
Because my family, I guess you could say that other than with my military hobby, which got me into pioneering, the other thing is my family came here in the 1750s, so they literally came here with bare bones nothing, went out into the bush. And then with Canada back then, essentially how it worked is, since my family fought in the War of 1812, they were given land granted. Basically said, here, you fought for this country, here's, I forget, maybe about 50 acres or something like that, or a large plot of land. It's all trees and unworked, and basically start from nothing, here you go. And you have to build a farm at least in 1 year on that, plot of land. So I just imagine what my ancestors would have been doing, making their very first farm and that, and then slowly, I guess you could say, building up a house and that. Anyway, but stuff like that gives me interest. And sorry if I'm a bit of a chatterbox.
That's all right. No, that's good. I mean, it's something I've looked into myself. And I always like the channels on YouTube or wherever that do that real basic stuff, because, I mean, people seem to pack a lot of technology into the bug out stuff, but the problem with technology these days is that it's really fragile. I mean,
a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know like basic stuff like how to tell which way's north.
Yeah, exactly. They load up an app on the smartphone.
Yeah, like, because I've asked a lot of, just people that I've talked to, like how, like, take them outside and be like, how do you tell which way is north? And they're like, yeah, yeah. But I just, also people don't know how to read maps, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's kind of like anything else. You really should start with the basics. I think a lot of bug out stuff that people do is kind of like they're more focusing on the gear itself or the aesthetic of it than they are really thinking about why it's there. Like I'm very much like my philosophy is very much like practicality over what stuff looks like. Like the style isn't really a huge factor to me. Like it's nice if something looks cool or whatever, but at the end of the day, if it's not going to keep me warm at night or some other type of like actual necessity, it's useless to me as far as I'm concerned.
Like for me, it's same sort of thing, and in one sense, I don't go for big, fancy, and expensive. I just go for what will do the job and stay working and over a long period of time. Like my sleeping bag is a little bit old, but it's warm as could be. It's what is it there? 1949 sleeping bag for aircrew for if your plane got shot down in a cold weather situation, and it's all down, very thick down. Sure, it's bad if water gets into it, but as long as you keep it away from water in the dead of winter, camping out in the snow, you stay warm as can be, which is really nice.
One thing that would be a problem around here is that the weather can tend to be pretty humid, which would make, especially when it rains a lot, could make drying stuff out difficult. Like that's partly one of the reasons I keep those what are they called? Those like canisters that are basically like full of silica to keep stuff dry. It's like I try to keep stuff as dry as I possibly can. Yeah, like moisture eliminator.
That's part of the, I guess you could say, prepping thing is to prep for your area which you live in. which for me is, Canada, where it's there's more snow or more cold than there is warmth up here, so it's always prepping for winter.
The issue here that probably makes it the most interesting is that the weather is so chaotic. One day it could be hot and rainy, the next day it could be, below freezing, and just the air as dry as it can be, and it drives me crazy. But like you learn to dress in layers and stuff like that. Like the sleeping bag that I got at an outdoor type place. It's only rated to I think 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not like super great or anything, but
I forget what mine's rated to, but if it's good enough for the army, it's good enough for me. And in addition to that, if it does get colder, well, I guess you could say, not to go too much on here, but I have my ground sheet, and then on top of that I have a pad, and then I put, if I'm not using it, my extra wool blanket, then sleeping bag, and then on top of that another wool blanket. I know that's a little too much, but
that's basically how I would do it. Yeah, and then but also I'd have my thermals with sweats over that, and then my clothes, and then my coat and all that stuff, and then in the sleeping bag. I probably wouldn't have to go that serious with it if I was in if I had a topper on the truck bed, assuming I took the effort to insulate it decently. But like if I had to sleep outside for whatever reason, I could handle that, because I've got a tarp. I should probably get a smaller tarp though, because this one I think is a 25 by 25 foot, and it's kind of unruly in most situations. But yeah,
I'm
like
a bit
lay
of a
down
heavy
tarp.
camper.
Yeah, well, I think it's like lay down the tarp, to try to also just to keep it, like, the rain off it or whatever, and pretty much like what you kind of like layer everything on top of that. Just like the issue with sleeping on the ground is the earth is like a heat sink, and all the heat will go through the ground if you don't put something down under you. So yeah, like I do pretty much the same thing with that.
So Innatruck, whereabouts is Innatruck now? He's driving around in his truck, so.
I'm going about 5 miles an hour through Toronto right now, wishing I were somewhere else.
Oh man, that sucks. How much traffic do you get like in the US and compared to Canada? Is it?
It all depends on your, I guess you could say, city. Like Toronto is the notorious worst traffic place in Ontario. No offense to people who live in Toronto, but really bad traffic down there. And then my city, they're actually trying to fix that right now. They're adding, what do you call it? We're getting a new metro, and we're also widening our Queensway, or the main, road through our city, to relieve some of the traffic. But
so do you guys go on your bug out routes? Have you got several routes that you check regularly?
For me, I'm lucky enough where I live on the edge of the city, so it's not,
same here.
Okay.
I don't have to worry from going, since I don't live, I guess you could say my city's divided into the downtown core, and then there's a green belt, and then there's all rural area after that, so I'm near the rural area.
The cool thing about Louisville is that you're usually never more than 10 or 15 minutes away from the interstate. So, once you get on 65, you can be out of here in no time, really.
But yeah, for me, it's getting out of the city is easy. It's just we haven't really we've set up a few potential meet points, but I guess you could say they're not the best. We still gotta make a proper decision for our end meet point if something shit hits the fan.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I'm doing as well. Is I'm actually going out on my bug out routes this year, and I'm testing it like on foot, bike, I don't have a vehicle, so I'm actually just going to test it. Times involved, how long does it take us?
What is what's the earth like over there, Geordie? Because like here it's really soft. It's like I got stuck in the mud so easily today. Like we have kind of like a clay type soil. So it's really easy to dig in.
It's pretty similar here. I mean,
Okay.
it changes quite a lot depending on what area you're in. Some areas are like really, really clear, just basically clear, but other parts are just real soft soil. But it varies quite a lot, really. We were talking about maps earlier, and there was a map I seen one time, and it tells you, basically tells you what type of soil there is, like in different areas, like the consistency of it. But I can't remember where I saw it. But I also think, I'm pretty sure that used to have like background radiation levels on it as well.
For a short bug out plan, our current plan is essentially just to get out of the city and meet. The only problem is it's short term because we're relying on what's the word I'm looking for? It's a farmstead, but it's been not vacant but abandoned for about 10 years now. And our goal is essentially to go out of the city to this abandoned farm and meet up there because it has, nice shelter. It's not in the middle of, nowhere, but it's far enough away from the city that it'd be a safe meeting point and pretty quiet that it's pretty much off the beaten trail.
Yeah.
So our goal would be to meet up there and then use the barn for cover. Because sure, tents and that are nice, but if you put your tent inside of a barn, there you go, a whole new layer of, you wouldn't even need to use the tent. You could just use the barn itself, period. But anyways, it's a good little place to go to. It's just all contingent that they don't rip it down.
So has anyone got any big prepper fails? Like, have you had anything that's just regretted it?
Not regretted it so much as with me using antique firearms, it comes, I guess you could say, the danger of firing them. Basically, I think, what's the proper term? Squib load or whatever. Essentially, I fired 3 times, and 3 bullets got stuck in my barrel.
Yeah, that's a squib.
But essentially, I had just got the gun, and it came with preloaded ammunition from the original owner, and either the powder was bad or not enough powder, and I fired 3 times, and I'm like, why didn't anything hit the target? Unload it, pull out the cylinder, look down the barrel. Oh shit, it's blocked. But luckily it didn't damage the barrel. It was just me and my friend had to drill a hole through all 3 of the rounds and then slowly pull them out one at a time. Because how my old revolver works is it works like a funnel essentially. Or I guess that's with all revolvers, right? It works sort of in a funnel sort of fashion that it has slightly bigger than the caliber on entering, and then it squeezes it down to eat into the
on the casing,
yeah. But essentially, I was lucky that way that pulling them out in reverse, I was able to get them out easily and no damage to the barrel, so everything's hunky dory. But that could have went so bad with a 120-year-old revolver. Like, rule number 1, if you get an old weapon, make sure the ammo's good, and then make sure the barrel's good. Or know its, I guess you could say, history. Like my Snyder, I bought it from its previous owner. I've got to try it out this year and test it, but he had been firing it, and it has good rifling and everything, but still, from 1860, it's pretty old. And the metal's not the greatest to modern standards of metal, so dangerous to fire, but if it is working and you keep it in good working order, it's nice to have antique weapons, especially because you don't need a license. And if they ever bring back the long gun registry, I don't think you would have to register them, question mark, but
anyone
that's
else
just-
prepper fails?
I think my only fail so far is just I don't have enough stuff to like deal with wet weather as far as like clothing, like stuff that's like water resistant or whatever.
I guess for
And
weapons.
Yeah,
it's more like a lack of foresight, really.
I mean it's hard to get stuff for all weathers, because if you get stuff that's like completely waterproof, but then it's not breathable, so I don't know. I mean, it's something I've thought about a lot. I mean, obviously, it rains quite a lot here in England, but we do have our really nice summers as well, and it's something I've considered. Like,
That's why I just prefer to dress in layers. Really, it's like, I mean, like getting some, like I guess water resistant shoes or something would be a good idea. But overall, it's like if it's raining, I guess a poncho would work, something like that. But
Depending on how
mostly
much.
it's.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's just like if you layer it, then it kind of doesn't matter because your pants might be breathable, but if you got thermals and sweats under it, it sort of functions. It kind of doesn't matter at that point, unless it's like super cold. One issue I had though is I was looking for fleece lined pants, cargo pants, and they have them, but at least where I looked, they didn't have anything above a 44 inch or above a 42-inch waist. I don't know if that means they don't make them that big at all, or if they just didn't have them there. But like one reason I buy my clothes oversized is just to like so for when you layer them, it doesn't feel like you're kind of restricted as much because you have more room to move. But also like you get like a big and tall shirt, or something like that, it's easier to keep tucked in because it kind of doesn't matter how many layers you have on if your shirt's sticking up in the back and the cold air or whatever can get up there anyway.
yeah.
Essentially, what I have, well, it's only for my vehicle loadout, I guess you could say. In addition to all the stuff I can load in if shit hits the fan, I also have my, I guess you could say, everyday vehicle loadout, and I have 3 haversacks, and essentially what they are is I have one with extra winter clothing and winter related stuff to keep me warmer, like extra gloves, socks, an extra jacket, so on, and then a more fall loadout one, and then one for summer, which is just, I guess you could say, very, very basic odds and ends. So I always have extra clothing in that for wherever I'm out and about, and if I need to pull on an extra layer or that, it's always in my vehicle, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's handy if you've got somewhere to keep all this extra stuff, but what happens if you don't?
Well, that's as I said, that's just for my vehicle. For if I'm out and about on foot, I'm bad for, I guess you could say, being too prepared. And by that I mean I carry, if I'm going to be out and about for the whole day on foot, like let's say at an event like Canada Day or something, I carry a backpack in addition to, I guess you could, my friends call it my man purse, but I know that sounds funny, but it's my EDC. I have a EDC bag that I carry with me that I, have every day in case of, shit hit the fan, but I just add on my backpack with extra goodies for the day. I guess you could say, like, if I know it's going to rain that day or there's a possibility, I have my rain poncho and its sunscreen, extra stuff on me, essentially, in addition to my main bag, which I'll post a picture of in the chat there in a second. But Here it is.
Yeah,
It's oh, sorry.
Oh, so I was just saying something like a messenger bag or a laptop bag kind of thing.
I posted it in general, but me and my friends call it the four banger.
I've got something like that. Kind of like not a duffel bag really. It's more like I guess like a carry-on bag, like for like luggage or whatever. It's just like you can throw it over your shoulder. Like I used to do that. Like have that next to a backpack or whatever.
But it's essentially like, as you can see in the second picture, it's designed to carry magazines, but since I can't really walk around with a rifle or that, I just fill it up with extra goodies. Essentially, I keep basic what are they called there? The mint tin survival kit. I forget what it's called, but anyways, the smallest survival kit that you can make, which is a mint tin filled with little odds and ends like a fishing kit, waterproof matches, stuff like that. And then in the other pouches, I have basic fire starting stuff. I forget what it's called, but that's special wire that you can use for cutting branches and that to cut wood for fire. And basically, pretty much everything you need for your basic everyday carry. Emergency snacks, bottle of water. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart right now, but essentially everything that you need in case of emergency that I can pack into that bag with a little bit of extra space for everyday odds and ends.
But what about your breathing? Any masks?
That's one thing I don't have any of yet. Is masks.
Well, I can only carry something really light. I only keep a dust mask in there, but
you've got something though, right?
It's a dust mask, but I have respirators, but you're gonna get questioned a lot with walking around with a respirator. So
Yeah, well, funny story.
I don't.
There was a guy. Well, he wasn't really a guy. He's like a young lad, probably late teens, and he used to go along a street that I went down, and he was running, and he had like full-on gas mask on when he was running. It was hilarious to see.
Because I have
funny.
I guess it was for restrictive breathing, because that increases like your lung strength. But it just looked funny.
I've heard of those.
And especially in the summer, it was just a proper gas mask. But especially in the summer, it would have been really warm in it.
I haven't tried running with it, but I have tried sleeping with it to learn, I guess you could say, to fall asleep with the gas mask on. But I have 3 current issue NATO gas masks with about 10 filters of varying types. Like,
how long do filters last?
It's really based on where you are and essentially what's happening. Like,
yeah, it's really situationally dependent.
It's just not like Metro 2033 where you have a watch and it counts down.
Yeah, it'll tell you.
You can tell when it's getting harder. When it's getting harder to breathe, you know that the filter's starting to go is one sign, but it all depends on the area. Like, the majority of my filters are, I guess you could say, all 3 events: biological, nuclear, and chemical. But then I have to look into them, but I have some more specialized filters that are only meant for, I think, nuclear or biological. But that's another thing I should mention for all those new to gas masks. Be very careful with the filters. Most people are like, oh, let's buy Soviet filters. No, asbestos. They're just filled with asbestos. All my ones are, I guess you could say, issued in the last 10, 20 years. They do have a shelf life on them. I'm not sure if they'll work after the shelf life or how well, but most of mine are from 1985 oldest to current issue filters, so they're all pretty new, and they're all still sealed and in the plastic bags, ready for use. But yeah, don't use Soviet filters, and if you are going to use an older filter, best to check what it is on the internet before you use it. Because a lot of the older ones contain some pretty harmful toxins that they didn't think was so harmful back then. But sorry for the rant there.
Out of curiosity, where did you get those nano masks from?
My local surplus store is where I got one of them. The other two are from friends of mine who are ex-service. But what do you call it there? Out of the 3 that I have that are current issue, one I can't really use. Because as I said, not only do I prep, I collect for my hobby. So I collect Canadian military history. So I have like helicopter and tank crew gas mask that you have to plug in, and it has a forced air fan in it, connected to the filter, and then the regular NATO ones, which I've got from friends who have either just left the services or have long left the service, and they still have it kicking around. There's no really law against having the new ones. I know there is in, I think, other countries, but Canada, you're pretty much all right, at least in Ontario. I hope that answers your question there.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a Russian GP5 mask, and I bought some filters for it. Just what you were saying about being careful with the filters. I got some filters for it, and the NATO thread. But the GP5 is Russian, and that's like a GOST thread. So, I mean, I thought it was okay. The filters were okay, and I tested them as best I could. And I thought, yeah, fine. But I put a video up saying, oh, I got new filters for the mask. And then other preppers were saying, well, that's NATO thread, but the GP5 is GOST thread. But yeah, just but then again, that's why I like prepping, because I thought it was fine, but then it turns out it's not. So, I can't
older
really.
gas masks are. Oh, sorry.
I can't really use that mask as it is now. I mean, I use it for DIY stuff. It's great for that, but for an actual emergency, I couldn't use it because I know my filters don't work for it properly. So I've got to get some GOST threads ones for it, because the mask itself is completely fine.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. A lot of it's the thing of a lot of the older gas masks are still serviceable. It's just the filters that are bad on them. Of course, the more modern ones are, I guess you could say, better, but what do you call it there? A lot of my friends are still using that type of gas mask that you got. They're still good. It's just they're a little harder to put on in some ways, and what do you call it there? They have a chance of ripping, but I haven't seen it that much. I think it was just my friend who got one that was in bad shape. But the one thing I recommend, don't do what the guy on 4chan did, but do a gas mask fit check. If you have adjustable straps, like mine do, adjust it to the contours of your face and that. Don't make it too tight. You just want it slightly, if it makes any sense, slightly tighter than snug. You should be able to put your hand over the filter and not have any air come in, not even a little bit.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that on my GP5 and my GSR, yeah.
I'm still learning the donning procedure, though. Like, I've practiced it a few times, but there is one downfall for people who want a gas mask prep for the apocalypse. Is I'm not sure how many of you wear glasses. I don't, but it's a real pain to find a gas mask that works with glasses.
Yeah, I'm supposed to wear glasses, but I never do. Actually, like, the last pair of glasses I had, I broke 2 years ago, and I never bothered getting a new pair. Have you ever thought about getting contacts?
Well, as I said, I don't wear glasses, luckily, but one of my friends, I'm trying to help him out, and the only thing I've managed to do is until he's going to go for corrective eye surgery once he gets enough money in preparation to get rid of his glasses so he can properly wear a gas mask. But for now, I've been able to locate. I don't know what the modern equivalent is. I think with modern gas masks, you may or may not be able to get lenses. Not totally sure, but all I know is I have 1980s gas mask goggles that I have got from him, and he's working on getting someone to make, as proper, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Lens or prescription, that's it. The proper prescription, but that's one flaw with the gas mask, at least for glasses wearers. But
Well, yeah, I mean, I doubt there's going to be any opticians around after stuff's hit the fan, but like your health is important to get these things done now.
But yeah, I've prepped decently when it comes to gas mask related stuff, but as I said, I can't carry one with my everyday EDC, but I have it in my larger vehicle kit, and then I have one in my, I guess you could say, regular bug out bag.
Prepper Vet's saying that the S10, which is the previous gas mask that was issued to British military, the S10 has the capability for glass inserts.
See if we can get a picture of my one, but my one's the current. I'm not sure how many NATO countries use it, but for Canada, it's called the C4 gas mask. And I also have the precursor, the C3. The C3 is, if you do get Canadian gas masks, I'm not sure how available they are around the world. You'll probably find a few of them in the States, but for Canadian gas masks, the C3 is good. The only bad thing about it is that it sometimes has sealing issues. That's why they upgraded to the C4. Plus, the C4, which is really nice for someone using a gun, is you can set the filter on either the left or right side, as long as you set it up for your face beforehand. I'll send you a picture of it. And I think you can also wear regular glasses in it, possibly, but I don't know or haven't tested it. But that's the number thing, at least with gas masks. Make sure it fits snug, that it's not too small or too big, that it's the right size. Your life depends on it, literally.
Yeah, and take the filter off, and if it sucks to your face when you breathe in. I mean, I practiced donning my gas mask. I've done it a lot of times. I mean, you can pretty much. I do it in the dark. I do take the filter off, put a new one on. I've got the practice filters, and it's all things that it's just practice. Once you've done it a few times, you can do it fairly quick.
And the one good thing, not that I'm trying to commercially sell these masks or anything, but the real plus with the C4 is if you see the tube on the, it would be on the left side of the face that you see in the picture, with the standard NATO issue, which at least Canada and America uses water bottles or canteens. While you're in the gas mask, you just push the tube into the top of your canteen, turn the canteen upside down, and there's a little water nozzle on the inside, so you can drink without having to remove your gas mask, which is a real plus. Especially because I've asked my friends who were in the services who had to use the precursor or the C3 gas mask, which didn't have it, and it was essentially a real pain to take off your gas mask and have a drink. He said when he was in the gas huts practicing with, I don't know what they use in the gas mask, but it's something that makes you puke and your eyes feel really uncomfortable. He said it was a pain trying to get a sip of water while taking your gas mask off. So, real plus having this one at least, but I'm not sure if there's any other gas masks that have this feature. I'm only, I guess you could say, versed in Canadian gas masks and a little bit in Russian.
Yeah, there's some Russian ones that have it. The new British GSR, that one you can drink as well.
I'm going to guess you guys probably have the same type of water bottle too, so it's probably the same connection. Essentially, all it is there's a little valve in the cap of each water canteen, and then when you insert the nozzle, there's two parts that open up the valves, so no I guess you could say, hazardous materials get in, so you can drink.
It sounds similar. The previous mask, the S10, that's got a drinking straw as well.
But if you have the canteens, the one thing I will caution is when you get these canteens, if you do use them, the little rubber part on the inside, which is part of the gas mask, fitting, to drink out of it, every time you use it, or at least if you're only using water in it, which is, it's not a must, but using water is the best in it without putting in other liquids, is you have to pull the rubber internal piece off and then clean in there because mold forms in there, which, of course, is not so good for your health. I'll see if I can find a picture, but I learned that the hard way a few times. And it was nasty pulling it off and finding mold in there. Not fun at all.
Well, I mean, it's like any gear you get. You need to know how to use it. You need to know how to maintain it. And it's going to have benefits and it's going to have downsides to the equipment. So you're not going to find the perfect tool or anything. You just got to find out what works for you, really. And
same with me, I guess you could say, with my bug out. This could even be a question if everybody wants to participate, but my bug out works is I'm a person that's very vintage, or in the sense of I like old stuff, so I tend to use a lot of older equipment or more simpler equipment, one. And two, when it comes to, as I said, guns and that, I use, I guess you could say, Soviet-era technology. But that's my quirk, is using older equipment. And, of course, overdoing it or carrying too much. Do you guys have any, I guess you could say, prepping quirks or stuff that you do that's sort of out of the norm for prepping?
I'm kind of blanking on it. Like, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
That's mine, at least. I just have the bad habit of liking old stuff. And then it's arguable. Some people are into, I guess you could say, like in my prepping scheme, it's a little too much, but I have flak vest. I haven't got plates yet, but I have a full Kevlar vest just for shits and giggles.
I guess maybe one quirk I have is just my plan to essentially, like, whenever I get a topper for this truck, bulletproof it. Like, I'm sure that's, well, I mean, I'm sure people have thought of that before, but it's not something you really hear people talk about a lot, is bulletproofing their vehicles.
I'd like to do that, but as I said, my vehicle's not the best example. I could probably fit some stuff in there, but it would have to be, like, I could put metal plates in there, but it wouldn't really work with my vehicle. Kevlar would be too expensive to try to pack in there, so it'd be finding some other sort of medium.
Like, I would really just, I mean, I'm thinking, like, fuck, I don't know, just like, my main issue would be basically, since it's a price limitation, the question is more about what am I willing to afford bulletproofing against? You know what I mean? Like, what's like the maximum caliber I'm willing to pay to proof against? Like, do I want to just block 7.62, or do I want to, like, try to get something that'll block 50 cal or something? I'm thinking about that type of thing.
Well, not too many people have 50 around, so
yeah. Well, like around here, it's definitely a possibility that somebody would have 50 caliber, not machine guns technically, but some type of rifle in 50 cal.
They'd be aiming for your engine anyways, wouldn't they? With a 50 cal, it's a vehicle stopper.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. But like in a point like that, I would just be more concerned with me not dying. Like if the engine goes out, as long as I'm not dead, I can work around that or whatever.
Yeah.
Would it maybe a compartment or something inside your van?
Well, I mean, like, I've got a pickup truck, and like you can get, they call them toppers, where they attach to the truck bed, so it's like on top of it, like it covers it. There's different types of models, but the type that I would plan on getting would be the type to where the tailgate could stay up and it would have a window that opens up. And some of them have windows on the side also, but um, then they also make ones that are kind of larger and go up above the cab, and it almost turns it into sort of like an RV. Basically, it's like a living space in a way. Um,
All right, okay.
yeah, I probably couldn't afford that, and also like you're most likely to find the previous one I mentioned. Now that, like, I guess like basically what I would do, like I'd get that on there. I'd figure out some way to sort of seal it, because they're not really sealed against the weather per se, unless you get one that's made that way specifically. I could figure that out. But then once I did that, I would think about,
Yeah.
I would just be thinking of maybe like, essentially a shell on the inside of like 2-inch steel or something like that. Kind of like something like, almost like something like you'd find, just like a plate in a flak vest or whatever, something like that. But then the issue is like I don't really know anything about metal work or whatever, so it would be a question of me figuring out how to do that, because I don't want to be, go somewhere and be like, hey, can you like, line my truck or whatever. Like, I know there are places that will bulletproof, but it's one of those things like I'd like to figure it out myself if I can, because it's just so much money.
I'll probably just wait until I get my, well, not dream vehicle, but my realistic dream vehicle for bug out.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is,
I mean, this is...
Which
Go
is
ahead.
a little crazy, but I'll post it, the bobbed deuce and a half.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
Probably
I have a
that's
friend that has, same friend that has the Jeep for sale also has some deuce and a half for sale, so if I can just get someone to help me do it, I can bob it, and that would be pretty cool.
your plan sounds like something from the 18.
I was just gonna say they take the rear axle off. Where's the middle axle?
Yeah, middle.
And they put and then I think, if I remember right, the bed on those things are actually one of those like the military trailers. I forget what the model number is.
But yeah, essentially just
the
giant
main
pickup.
benefit I would see from or like sort of like a side benefit of like if I did that bulletproofing idea, would just be the extra weight kind of helping the truck have better traction, at least on roads. It would make things worse if I got into, soil like we got around here that's soft. Like I'd get stuck more easily. But if I was on the road, if it's raining or icy or whatever, that extra weight would help me keep traction, which is something I was thinking about. But yeah, ideally I would have a 4-wheel drive, but that's just, I can't afford. I have to work with what I can afford right now, or at least I'd rather work with what I got right now. And if I have the ability later on, I would think about something like that, like a different vehicle.
If my friends and me could, I guess you could say there is a group goal that we want to do, but it's more of a dream. But one of my friends might, who knows, maybe might get it, but we're looking into getting for our group a BTR 60. But that's crazy level. Because they're actually...
There's a place here in Canada that I want to say, I think it's out in BC somewhere, that they do import those.
Yeah, they're pretty, well, they're not super cheap, but they're cheap enough that it's a cool idea. And essentially what we do is the turret would be there, of course, it's just there would be no gun. And maybe just a gun port.
Are you talking about importing a tank or something?
Armored personnel carrier.
All right, okay.
But that's the good thing, it's a wheeled vehicle. So
is it something that you could live in though? Like, is there enough space for 6 or 8 people or whatever to live in?
not to, not to live in, but you can fit a lot of people in there and a lot of equipment in and on top of it. But like it fits 3 crew and 14 passengers, so
Well, just make sure.
Big amount of space.
Just make sure that your group's less than 14, and you'll have room for your stuff.
Or if there's a little space in there for maybe a couple people to sleep at it, like you could cycle sleep schedules or whatever, like if you had to do that.
But what do you call it there? This is of, I guess you could say, my younger friends and me, or friends my age that want to get one. I do have a friend that actually owns a museum, and he has at least 3 APCs, but I don't think he's a prepper. He's more of a full-time collector.
How much do those things cost?
That I don't know, but I think the APC he's got is ex-British. I'll try to find a picture of it, but it's an ex-British APC. Next time I'm on, I'll try to ask him and maybe post in the chat, but I'm not sure what they would go for. All I know is finding the price for the BTR, where there's a site that sells them, and you can get them shipped in here through Russia, but with the way stuff's going with Russia right now, I doubt it. But I know that's a little bit of a crazy goal, but if something did happen, that would be a place to go, is my friend's museum. It's way out of the city. It's an hour and a half drive, but he has a whole tank and vehicle collection. And he does have, what do you call it there? APCs that are functional, at least 3 functional APCs. But that's, when you go into prepping and realisticness, APC is a little too much.
Yeah.
Especially for gas consumption, but the BTR is not too bad. Plus, it's actually amphibious, so it doubles as a boat.
One thing I'm trying to find is I'm trying to find the old gas cans before the recent regulations here made it to where they had to make those like eco-friendly gas canisters that they don't have any way to let out fumes, so they just swell up or whatever. Like I'm trying to find some older ones. Yeah. I know I've seen videos online of how you can convert it back into a regular one, but I'm trying to find someone that's got the older type. So like I would like to have gasoline with me, because that's one thing I don't have yet. Like if I need gas and I just can't get anywhere for gas, or if people, like make a gas station run or whatever, like people are just all leaving and all the gas is used or whatever, that type of thing.
That's you're in America, so I wouldn't know, but I know for Canada, there's a place that I go to that sells surplus that's called Princess Auto, and they have a lot of older surplus.
Do you think that do they only sell in Canada, or can they ship outside of Canada?
I'll look on their site, but I know they carry a lot of older military gas tins, and I think a few of them still have that, I guess you could say, ability to let fumes out. I'll check their site though as we speak.
I think the American equivalent of Princess Auto, the closest thing would probably be like Harbor Freight.
Okay, yeah. Well, no, they don't have surplus at Harbor Freight. They just have, I don't know, just cheap tools, really. I mean, honestly, like, Harbor Freight, the quality of their stuff isn't that great. Like, I got a box cutter there once, and it wasn't like die cast aluminum or whatever, like you think. It was more just like a plastic thing, but that was like painted silver. I mean, it's all right. It's all right if you need something just right then. But yeah, Harbor Freight, they're not surplus, but yeah, their quality is also not good either.
Well, that's mostly what Princess Auto is, like having some of the surplus cans and that are like a small part of it. But I mean, they have a lot of Chinese stuff there too. Like I know the majority of the brand they sell is a Chinese brand called Power Fist, which is like you said, it's usually pretty crappy, but it's cheap. So
Yeah, they don't do any sort of surplus. My only options, I guess, I'll just have to look at like I don't know, go around to like junk yards, thrift stores, or some type of thing like that. There's
Garage
just
sale.
one place. Yeah, there's a place around here that they're pretty good. They're not surplus, but they have a lot of older stuff and they're a clothing store, but who knows? Like I might ask them if they would know. They're the can't hurt to ask people questions. But I go
Yeah.
there a lot for clothing and things like that because like I'll like I wear a lot of like Carhartt or Wrangler or Bernie, like that type of like I'll spend $60 on a pair of pants if they'll like hold up. You know what I mean? Like I pay for quality, not like looks. Yeah, but yeah, they're mostly like blue collar type stuff that they sell in there.
Looking
Blue
up.
collar meaning working class. I haven't found
Actually,
any army surplus stores around here though.
for my city, at least for Ottawa, there's two, I guess you could say, dedicated or semi-dedicated surplus stores, and by that I mean there's JT's Military and Paintball, which sells airsoft and paintball equipment, but military surplus also. There was one downtown, but I think they've sort of died out as a surplus store. And then Princess Auto is the other big one in my city. They're not all surplus, but they have a section in what's the word I'm looking for? The only thing that you can always expect to find there in surplus is ammo cans, but they do get a variety of, like, I've seen everything from Soviet gas masks to, like, the oldest thing I found there is a Second World War haversack. Like, it's pretty much whatever they receive in the box that they put out and about for sale, but you can find some pretty good stuff at a pretty decent price in their surplus. I'm not sure how far Princess Auto extends across Canada, but I think it's at least in Ontario, or the majority of Ontario. But anyway,
There's
I think it's pretty much across Canada.
But their surplus is like pretty decently priced. The only thing that I will advise against is their ammo cans are really overpriced. Their general random surplus is pretty decently priced, but anything ammunition cans, like, wait for a sale. They have like once a month at my local Princess Auto a sale where the ammo cans go on like 30% off. So if you are looking for an ammo can, just wait for the sale. But the cans that they do sell are good quality. Like 75% of the time, they're lightly used, pretty much new ammo cans. And then the only odd time, like, the oldest ammo can I found is like from the 60s, 70s, which all the seals are completely, screwed on. It's no longer usable. But they sell everything from a small 30 cal can to their 105 millimeter artillery ammo cans, or for the carry 2 shells. But
Are those the ones that they're like a tube kind of with a cap on the end?
not so much a tube, but they're a very long square ammo can. I think they are for a mixture of tank and artillery ammunition. But I haven't found a use for those ones per se, other than maybe if you want to bury one and use it to store a cache, a weapons cache. But I've pretty much, like, for most of my bug out stuff, if I do put stuff in ammo cans, it's usually either the 50 caliber ones for the smallest end of things, or the 40 millimeter ones. Having those two types, the 40 millimeter stack easily. But it's the sort of thing of, it all depends what containers you want to use to put in your bug out vehicle. for me, I just keep about 4 of the 40 millimeter cans around because they're heavy duty, good metal containers. So if you have like one of them's turned into a bug out vehicle toolbox, the other has fire starting implements, so on and so forth. But that's just me. I just like ammo cans. Another cork.
So on that, I think I'll end the live stream, but we can keep talking once it's off. Not many people joined the chat, but it was a great discussion, guys. Cheers, thanks a lot.
Sorry if I'm a little too chatty. It's just me in general.